Now you, They heard me say it. I said that. If I was on there, I said that.
Turn around, please. You did not.
Shekinah, you stopped them, and I said the same. You asked me, do you think I'm happier? That you asked me the question, and I answered it. So why would you sit there and say that?
Because I am happy.
But why would you sit there and say that I ain't say that?
Because you didn't.
I think she's happy. Yes, I did.
It wasn't loud and clear.
Tell me. Yeah? Tell me what's going on right now.
Atlanta was on fire last night, and not because of a concert or movie premiere. The city exploded with drama so wild it could have been a blockbuster. But this time, it was real life, messy, and straight up unbelievable. Clifford T.I. Harris, and the self-proclaimed King of the South, just found himself trapped in a storm that could destroy his empire. Everything he built, from fame to family, was suddenly hanging by a thread. It all started when private files, medical papers, screenshots of secret messages, and even some sketchy audio clips dropped online like a digital explosion. The internet went nuts because the leaks claimed that Shekinah Anderson was pregnant, and the name being whispered as the father? T.I. himself. Fans couldn't believe it. Within hours, hashtags like Shekinah Pregnant, DNA for TINY, and Justice for Tiny were trending everywhere. People who had always stood by Tiny through all the past rumors were furious. This wasn't just messy gossip, it felt like the ultimate betrayal. Then came the shocker that nobody was ready for. Tiny stepped forward herself. Cameras flashed as she stood there, tears rolling down her cheeks but fire burning in her eyes. Her voice cracked, but her words hit like thunder. I want a DNA test. I deserve the truth. My family deserves the truth. That one statement flipped the whole situation upside down. Suddenly, it wasn't fan speculation anymore. It was a wife demanding cold, hard proof. The footage of Tiny breaking down in front of everyone, her body trembling, clutching tissues, trying to hold herself together, spread across every platform. It struck deep with women everywhere who'd ever felt played, betrayed, or left out in the cold. Tiny wasn't just a celebrity in that moment. She was a symbol of heartbreak, strength, and every broken promise ever made by a man who swore he'd never hurt you. The public couldn't look away. Not because they wanted to see her pain, but because it was too raw, too real, too human. And then came the part that made the whole thing explode. Shekinah's alleged medical report leaked, and what was written in there left everyone stunned and speechless. The bomb dropped harder when the estimated conception date lined up perfectly with T.I.'s stay at an Atlanta hotel. One single line in that report confirmed what everyone had been whispering. And just like that, the entire industry froze in shock. This wasn't fan fiction anymore. It was a straight-up paper trail. Reporters gasped, bloggers scrambled, and influencers couldn't type fast enough. Fans said it felt like watching the fall of a dynasty. Tiny, overwhelmed and heartbroken, reportedly collapsed during a heated family confrontation. Meanwhile, TY's Instagram wiped clean. No posts, no captions, no stories, nothing. The silence was deafening, and that quiet spoke volumes. To the public, it sounded like a confession louder than any denial could ever be. But just when everyone thought the chaos had peaked, things got even crazier. A whistleblower came out of nowhere, dropping alleged screenshots of Shekinah messaging a friend, admitting that if the DNA test results went public, I would lose everything. His wife, his career, his empire, gone. That leak turned the whole scandal into a ticking bomb ready to explode at any second. Social media was split in half. Some folks called Shekinah a manipulator who wrecked a family, while others said she was just a woman who got caught up in a dangerous love triangle she never meant to be part of. But one thing was undeniable. The Harris empire was crumbling live in front of millions of people, and no one could stop the fall. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the courtroom showdown. Cameras flashed, paparazzi shouted, and crowds packed the courthouse steps like it was a movie premiere. Protesters held up signs reading "Justice for Tiny," while fans screamed as if it were a championship fight. Inside, the tension was so thick you could almost feel it crackling in the air. Tiny sat beside her lawyers, tissues in hand, eyes red but fierce. Shekinah entered next, heavily guarded, looking torn between guilt and defiance. And finally, I walked in. The once unshakable King of the South now looked hollow, cornered, and stripped of power, just waiting for the judge to speak. Tiny versus Clifford Harris and Shekinah Anderson, DNA and Betrayal. The title alone had the whole city shaking. This wasn't some simple family argument anymore. This was betrayal written into legal history. The entire world had its eyes locked on Atlanta, waiting to see if the so-called King of the South would finally fall from his throne. The courtroom looked more like a Hollywood set than a place of justice. Reporters filled every corner, pens flying across notepads, cameras flashing non-stop. Fans who managed to get in were sitting on the edge of their seats. It felt like the final episode of the wildest drama series ever made. Then the moment came. The evidence dropped. The air went cold when the judge allowed a certain audio file to be played out loud. The room went dead silent as the speakers crackled with a grainy voice. Allegedly T.I.'s. And what came next made everyone's blood run cold. Don't worry, Shay. If this comes out, I'll handle Tiny. Just trust me. Era's gasps filled the courtroom. Tiny's whole body trembled like she'd just been hit by lightning. She shot to her feet, her voice breaking as she screamed, "You destroyed me! You destroyed our family!" The heartbreak in her words cut through the silence, and then her strength gave out. She collapsed right into her daughter's arms, sobbing uncontrollably as cameras captured every raw, painful second. That one image, Tiny in tears surrounded by flashing lights, spread across the internet within minutes. The Queen of a Broken Empire headlines hit every major outlet. People all over the world were glued to their screens, speechless at how far this had gone. Outside the courthouse, Atlanta exploded with chaos. Protesters shouted, "Justice for Tiny," and "DNA doesn't lie," while others turned their anger toward Shekinah, chanting, "Snake!" Police struggled to control the crowd as emotions spilled into the streets. The city had never seen anything like it, and deep down, everyone knew this was only the beginning. News anchors across the nation called it the greatest betrayal in hip-hop history. TikTok was in meltdown mode, fans crying on camera, others posting wild memes mocking T.I. as a fraud, while some painted Tiny as a phoenix rising from the ashes. The streets of the internet were on fire. Shekinah got caught right in the middle. Some saw her as the cold mastermind behind the chaos, while others said she was just a pawn trapped in a game way bigger than her. But the real shocker, the one that left even the judge frozen, came when the DNA results finally dropped. The clerk's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. The room so quiet you could hear every breath. Then he spoke the words that hit like a nuclear explosion. Clifford Harris, known publicly as T.I., is the biological father of Shekinah Anderson's child, with 99.9% certainty. The courtroom erupted. Gasps turned into screams. Tiny let out a cry that cut through every heart in that room. "Why, Clifford? Why would you do this to me? To us?" Her daughter held her tight, both in tears, as Shekinah broke down too, shouting through sobs, "I never wanted this. He promised me everything." Then all hell broke loose. Tiny grabbed a water bottle and hurled it straight toward Shekinah, shouting, "You destroyed my life. You tore apart my children's home. Don't you dare act like a victim." The judge's gavel slammed over and over, but the courtroom was pure chaos. Fans screaming, reporters pushing for footage, and security struggling to keep the peace. Minutes later, every outlet was running the story. The bombshell Tiny broken and canceled T.I. trended worldwide within the hour. News networks ran non-stop coverage. Commentators dissected every second, and late-night hosts turned it into headline jokes. Hip-hop insiders called it the most shameful downfall of a rap legend ever. And just when the dust started to settle, another bomb hit. A leaked clip surfaced online, allegedly showing T.I. laughing with friends just days before the trial, acting like nothing could touch him. That video sent fans into a frenzy, making it clear this scandal was far from over. The leaked video didn't just end with T.I. laughing, it got worse. In the clip, he was allegedly heard bragging, "Tiny ain't going nowhere. She can cry, she can sue, but she'll always need me. Shekinah, man, she's just another piece of the puzzle." The arrogance in his tone sent shockwaves through the internet. Fans exploded with rage, calling him a narcissist, a manipulator, a king who mocked the very queen that built beside him. Overnight, T.I.'s empire started to bleed out. His record label dropped a cold, emotionless statement. "We are reviewing our relationship with Clifford Harris following recent revelations." That one sentence said it all. Sponsorships vanished, brand deals collapsed, and friends who once stood by him started to quietly disappear. The King of the South suddenly had no throne left to stand on. Meanwhile, Tiny rose from the ashes like a warrior queen. Her public statement hit harder than any diss track ever could. Through tears, she said, "I never thought I'd see the day my family name would be dragged through this, but I will rise. I will fight. And I will make sure my children know the truth about the man who broke our home. Those words melted hearts worldwide. Fans flooded her comments with love and prayers. Crowds gathered outside her home, waving signs that read Queen Tiny Forever and Strength After Betrayal. She became a symbol of grace, strength, and survival. The woman who stood tall even after her world shattered. But while Tiny's strength inspired millions, Shekinah's world was falling apart fast. Her inbox filled with death threats. Protesters camped outside her place, shouting cruel words every time she stepped out. On a tearful Instagram live, she broke down crying, saying, "I didn't destroy the family, he did. He told me he loved me, said he'd leave Tiny, and now I'm the one paying the price. I can't even walk outside without being called a monster." Her pain was real, but the internet wasn't forgiving. People had already chosen sides, and Shekinah was branded the other woman, the homewrecker, the downfall of the Harris empire. Whether she was a victim of manipulation or a willing participant, it didn't matter anymore. The world had made up its mind. And then came the final blow that sealed it all. Tiny officially filed for divorce. Court documents revealed she was demanding full custody of their children, half of Tyne's empire, and additional damages for emotional trauma. The once powerful couple that built an empire together was now locked in a war that would tear it apart piece by piece. This wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the end of a hip-hop legacy, and the world couldn't stop watching every move. The leaked court documents hit the internet like wildfire, spelling out every painful detail of Ty's alleged repeated betrayal, public humiliation, and irreparable emotional damage. The words alone were devastating. Paparazzi swarmed the courthouse as Tiny stepped out in dark sunglasses, her eyes red and swollen from crying, her children close by her side. That one heartbreaking image became the cover of every major tabloid the next morning, splashed with brutal headlines like "Tiny ends it all, DNA bombshell destroys the Harris family." By nightfall, the once mighty Harris empire had crumbled to dust. I was reportedly alone in his mansion, drowning in silence, surrounded by anger, regret, and an avalanche of hate messages. Meanwhile, Tiny was being celebrated by the public, lifted up as the queen who survived the storm. But the scandal wasn't done, not even close. The nightmare kept unraveling piece by piece. Rumors claimed T.I. had already lost more than $30 million in canceled contracts. Sponsors vanished, collaborations died, and whispers said even some of his closest allies had cut all contact. At the same time, insiders hinted that Tiny was quietly working on a tell-all memoir, ready to expose every hidden betrayal, every secret that had been swept under the rug for years. And Shekinah. The word on the street was that she was preparing to leave Atlanta entirely, just to escape the chaos. What was once a dynasty built on music, money, and family pride had turned into nothing but broken dreams and bad blood, a public implosion playing out like the most scandalous reality show ever broadcast. As the dust began to settle, the truth became crystal clear. This wasn't just another celebrity scandal. This was the full-blown collapse of a legacy. T.I., once crowned the King of the South, now sat in silence inside his mansion. Stripped of power, stripped of loyalty, stripped of everything he once commanded. The same streets that used to praise his hustle now whispered about his downfall. Friends stopped calling, business partners backed out. Even longtime industry allies quietly started keeping their distance. The empire he spent decades building had been cracked wide open, leaving nothing but a shell filled with betrayal, scandal, and shame. But while T.I.'s world fell apart, Tiny's story transformed into something powerful. She was no longer just the wife of a rapper. She became a symbol of survival, a woman who faced public humiliation and came out shining stronger than ever. Cameras followed her everywhere, but this time it wasn't for drama. It was for admiration. Fans lined the streets holding signs that read "Queen Tiny Forever" and "Strength Over Scandal." They cried for her, they cheered for her, and they called her a warrior. Her pain had turned into power, and people couldn't get enough of watching her rebuild. Shekinah, on the other hand, faced a brutal fate. Her name became one of the most hated in the game. Protesters stood outside her home day and night, chanting that she had destroyed a family. Her DMs were filled with threats and venom, making it nearly impossible for her to even step outside. From fame to fury, from love to betrayal, the Harris family saga had officially gone down as one of the most dramatic collapses hip-hop had ever seen. Shekinah went live again, tears streaming down her face as she cried, "He told me he loved me. He told me he'd leave Tiny, and now I'm the one taking all the hate. but the public wasn't buying it anymore. To most people, she wasn't a victim. She was the spark that burned the entire house down. Whether that was fair or not didn't matter. Her image was shattered beyond repair. Behind closed doors, industry insiders whispered that Shekinah was planning to leave Atlanta for good, maybe even change her name just to escape the chaos that followed her every move. In one heartbreaking moment of weakness, she admitted, "I can't walk down the street without someone spitting at me or calling me a monster." That confession hit hard, but sympathy had already run dry. And soon, her story faded from the spotlight, leaving behind nothing but wreckage and regret. Tiny, on the other hand, was moving like a chess master. The divorce was just her first move. She was planning something bigger. Court documents showed she wasn't just demanding half of T.I.'s empire and full custody of their kids. She was preparing to speak her truth loud and clear. Rumors swirled that Tiny was writing a tell-all memoir, one that wouldn't just expose the scandal with Shekinah, but years of hidden lies, secret flings, and betrayals that had been quietly buried under fame and power. The word on the street was that this book was going to shake the industry like an earthquake. Fans were hyped. Talk shows, podcasts, and blogs lined up, begging for interviews. Everyone wanted to hear Tiny's side of the story, raw, unfiltered, and from her own lips. Every word she said turned into a viral headline. She had transformed from the heartbroken wife into the victor, a woman reclaiming her voice after years of silence. And the craziest part? The quieter T.I. tried to stay, the louder Tiny's voice became. The world was tuning in to her story now. Not his. She wasn't just surviving, she was winning. Her narrative completely flipped the script, painting her as the true survivor, the woman who rose above betrayal and heartbreak while T.I. sank deeper into the shadow of his own mistakes. Meanwhile, T.I. was facing a downfall the industry hadn't seen in years. Reports said he had already lost more than $30 million in contracts, endorsements, and deals. The record label that once bragged about his success now barely mentioned his name. His empire was drying up fast, and the so-called King of the South was watching his crown slip right through his fingers. T.I.'s world kept crumbling fast. His sponsorships vanished overnight, and his streaming numbers tanked as fans turned their backs in disgust. The same people who once called him king now dragged him online, labeling him a narcissist, a manipulator, a man who burned down his own house and career with nothing but his ego and bad decisions. That leaked clip of him bragging, saying Tiny would never leave him, wouldn't die either. It resurfaced again and again, replayed on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube like evidence of his arrogance. Each time it came back around, the internet flamed him harder, calling out his hypocrisy, his pride, and his downfall. Every time T.I. tried to stay quiet, another rumor dropped, another secret leaked, another shocking revelation pulled him right back into the chaos. His silence, which once looked like power, now looked like guilt. Sitting alone in that massive mansion, the same one that once symbolized success, he had nothing left but regret and the echo of his own mistakes. The empire was gone. The fans were gone. The crown? Gone. What was left was just a ghost of the king he once was. But what made this whole saga even more haunting was how it took over the culture. This wasn't just a scandal. It was history in motion. Talk shows, radio stations, and podcasts couldn't stop debating it. Was this the biggest betrayal in hip-hop history? Fans argued endlessly online about whether Tiny should ever forgive him or keep that door locked forever. But those divorce papers said it all. She was done. Even celebrities started weighing in. Some showed public love for Tiny, calling her a symbol of strength, while others stayed far away from the mess, not wanting their own names dragged into the fire. The Harris family, once loved for their music, their TV show, and their power couple image, had now become a tragic warning to everyone watching. The same empire people once admired had turned into a lesson that no matter how rich or famous you are, when lies start stacking up, everything will fall apart. The King of the South had lost his crown, and the whole world was watching his fall one headline at a time. Tiny's tears became more than just pain. They turned into a symbol for every woman who's ever been betrayed and had to find strength in the middle of heartbreak. Her story hit deep because people saw themselves in her struggle, the love, the loyalty, the lies. Meanwhile, Shekinah's downfall stood as a harsh reminder that playing the role of the other woman never ends with peace, only regret. And T.I.'s collapse? It became the ultimate warning, proof that arrogance and betrayal can destroy even the strongest legacy. By the end, Atlanta itself didn't feel the same. The city that once praised T.Y. as royalty now whispered his name with pure disappointment. His crown was gone, his throne empty, and what remained was nothing but the ruins of a broken dynasty. Tiny, however, rose from those ashes as a tragic queen turned legend, a woman who survived the worst storm and still stood tall. Her heartbreak became her power, and her name became bigger than the scandal itself. Shekinah faded into the background, a ghost of the chaos she helped create, paying the heavy price of choices that could never be undone. T.I., on the other hand, stayed isolated, trapped in silence, surrounded by memories of the empire he built and then destroyed with his own hands. The Harris kingdom that once looked untouchable was now nothing but smoke and shattered glass. Those DNA results didn't just confirm paternity, they tore open a truth so raw that it left nothing standing. Careers ended, reputations burned, and lives were forever changed. When the cameras zoomed in on Tiny's tear-streaked face one last time, the message was crystal clear. This wasn't just another scandal, this was betrayal in its purest form. No one came out clean. No one walked away whole. The scars ran too deep for any kind of healing. And now that we've watched this entire storm unfold, the question remains, can anything ever rise from this rubble? Or is the Harris dynasty truly finished for good? Because sometimes the truth doesn't just set you free, it burns everything around you until there's nothing left to save. So if you've been glued to this wild saga, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Because on StarBuzz Daily, the drama never sleeps. And this story is only getting darker.